Hello and welcome everybody to another faction introduction, this time the Junkers faction. No, joke, I said Viridians and we are doing Viridians. Let's scroll up there and here we are. Come on. We already did all these, including the Vasa, and the Viridians start here on page 75 of the old edition 1 rulebook. You need to start out with 4 colonial marines or Saurian riders. Now this has been stretched quite far that it includes sergeants or shock marines, but I suggest keeping it very basic with just colonial marines or your variety of Saurian riders except the sergeant. The Cal rules still apply, and here we go into the army list with the colonial marines and the sergeant, including the heavy Gauss rifle. These are your basic run-of-the-mill troops, and despite saying they are a shooty faction, they can stand their own in close combat. I wouldn't actively charge into close combat, that's what you have shock marines for, but they can stand their own, having their combat blade giving them a slight advantage over troops that don't have one. Now, the bazooka team is really an anti-claw unit or anti-armor unit, and the Marine heavy machine gun team is one of the must-have buys because it completely locks down certain areas for your opponent. The mortar team is the same thing in no line of sight firing, which is particularly when you are going against entrenched synths, not to be overlooked. And it is also, when you go back, the heavy machine gun is 22 points and the mortar is 17. It's also to think about your point structure. Best miniature in edition 1, Viridian Sniper. With all the special rules, you are running it at Cal 152 or Cal 265 points. So yeah, get 1 or 2 for your strike team and your opponent is going to have a very hard time. Especially when you combine it with the shock marines to secure or interrupt a charge of your opponent. The Vibro Scythe and the Negatron Shield are making sure that your shock marines are coming out victorious most of the time. And looking at your setup, machine gun, sniper, shock marines, there is very few things that can challenge your strike team if you're playing it well. The next set is the Saurian riders, and I personally don't use them that much, although they all have 2 wounds. When you look at the Saurian rider and the heavy Gauss rifle, they also have combat blades, and with 2 wounds they are really tough and fast counterattack units. In general, I would advise you to play rather conservative with your Viridians, not overstretch yourself and go on the offensive too easily, because a well-played defensive Viridian strike team is very hard to counter. On the offense, on the other hand, you are often left out standing in the middle without any cover, where your opponent can set you up and destroy you piece by piece. Now, final additions, the special forces, they do not have a combat blade by default, but they can get camouflage and they have the spotter special rule, which you can use to your advantage for your mortar. Now, another often underrated, often overrated miniature is the Urban Interdict, which has led to a lot of talk when Edition 2 came out. Interdicts are drop troopers with high morale, tactical awareness, and 2 Gauss pistols. They have 1 wound, but toughness 5 is a force to be reckoned with, and being able to deep strike behind enemy lines, what one of the editors of Edition 2 said is a guaranteed assassination. So high value targets with the Viridian Interdict still off board. That's the fun part. The Viridian Interdict stays off board until you are using it. It creates a situation where you force your opponent to do certain things and not do certain things that you can exploit if you have an interdict in your lineup. Now, command-wise, we have, of course, the sergeants and the named Charles Trask, the Shock Marine, Lieutenant Johnny G, the Marine, and Lee Hammer, the Special Forces. So I like playing Trask because of Cal 3 65 points Shock Marine. That is incredible. And the other miniature I play sometimes is Lee Hammer, because he is also a spotter, and 69 points Cal 2 Assault 5. That is something you want to have. And again, 2 wounds for all of these, including Johnny G. That is really, really great. Now, the end of the story will be, of course, the Junkers that I mentioned earlier. And I want to look quickly at the militia. Now, don't get wound up by the rules of the militia now. In Edition 2, it was really choose what you want, and these are the points that it costs. They are a nice addition, especially if you choose a shooty militia. And militia 17 points, you get a shooting model for 17 points, which can be cheaper than your standard forces. But you can't be a commander, you can't contain more militia models than your regular models, and you need to start recruiting them as Cal 0 troops. So these are Viridians and the militia, and in the next episode I will be talking about the Junkers. That's it for today, and I will all see you next time.